pals, it's Lauren here, and I'm going to show you how to train your dog to not pull. And it's using a method that involves classical conditioning. So first things first, I need to explain what classical conditioning is. You guys might have heard of Pavlov's theory. He discovered that when he rang a bell, 1.5 seconds later, he fed dogs food. Rang a bell, 1.5 seconds later, gave food. What started happening, he's ringing the bell, the dogs are salivating. Because in the dog's mind, they were classically conditioned that the bell sound to the dog gives the same meaning as the food. So this is what we're gonna do to basically, it's kind of like mind control, like the dog, once it's done consistently, correctly, with a lot of successful reps is a key, your dog doesn't have a choice. Like, they do the behavior because they've been classically conditioned to it, and it's a reflex response. Signal 1 for the exercise I'm about to show you is the pop on the leash. Signal 2 is the word we're going to use that communicates to the dog to stop pulling. So I recommend clients always use whatever word works for you naturally. So if you find that naturally, every time you want to correct your dog because they're pulling, you go, enough. That should be your word. If you find naturally you go, hey, that should be your word. If you find you switch a lot, sometimes you say no, sometimes you say sometimes you say stop pulling, you're confusing your dog, and it's not clear communication, and the dog has no idea what's going on, and you're not really giving the strongest leadership skills. So you get what you give. So what's going to happen is some people argue, recent research shows it's 1.2 seconds apart. Old research shows it's 1.6 seconds apart. For my argument, to make this simple, I'm going to say it's 1.5 seconds. That's just an average. 1.5 seconds apart. So you have to go which is the second signal that I'll show you. You say and then 1.5 seconds later you pop the leash. You only want to do this if your dog is pulling. If your dog's walking fine and not pulling, do not correct them. They're doing the behavior you want. This is specifically to communicate to the dog that you do not want them to pull. The which will be 1.5 seconds before, so pop, pop, pop. Eventually, when I say in the dog's mind, they're mentally going to be like the takes the meaning of the pop. So I won't have to pop because the dog mentally, when they hear they're going to be like whoop. Animals communicate with pressure. Literally a quick pressure and release, pressure and release, pressure and release. And the dog determines how soft the pop is. I've had dogs that all I have to do is like that. And they're like, oh. I've had dogs that are like 90 pounds and I'm doing what I perceived as a hard pop, which would be like that. It's a lot more firm, and the dog does not give 2 cents about it. Like, they do not care at all. So dogs like that, you might have to, there's other tools you can use to help those dogs. The other thing is know your dog. So if you have a very confident dog that maybe needs more firm pop versus a very sensitive dog that might be like more shy and they need a very soft pop. So the dog tells you what type of leadership they need, and you need to adapt for that dog. And I'm not yelling at the dog. I want to make that clear. Like, when people are getting kind of like frustrated, and the dog can feel that. You'll notice, like, I'm going to be very calm. I'm going to be very peaceful. So keep in mind, I'm giving like a 3-minute rundown of something that should really be a 1-hour session. And I always recommend, if you want support, if you want help with training, find a mentor or find a professional, because there's so much more than what I'm showing you right now. And it's so easy to make mistakes and to not even notice it because you don't have someone that knows more and it's more experienced than you to tell you. Have the leash on him. It needs to be up around his head. It's actually not supposed to be on his throat down here. It's supposed to be up around just under his chin and right behind his ear. So I'm really just controlling his head. It has nothing to do with the throat. I use a command for loose leash walking so that the dog knows that like when I say this word, there's guidelines to what we're about to do. Okay, this is perfect because there's leaves blowing everywhere. So many distractions. Let's go. Uh-uh. 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 Good boy. Uh-uh. Good boy. Uh-uh. Good boy. I tell him good when he's being good. It takes a few hundred reps to see the results. So when Pavlov was ringing the bell, feeding the dogs, ringing the bell, feeding the dogs, he literally had to do that 100, possibly 200. For some behaviors, it's like 800 times. The amount of reps depends on the behavior. And this is just for classical conditioning. So if you're talking about knee po and other styles, I'm just talking about classical conditioning. And I'll reference it for those that are going to be questioning me. Pamela Reed, Accelerate Your Learning. Read it. It's an awesome book. I actually can't show you what the result's going to be because I need to take him on a bunch of more walks. And the thing with this method is like he really needs to make a mistake. Like he needs to pull for me to correct him, to put in a rep. So it's really going to be like a long journey. But once he gets it, it's going to be beautiful because I'll just say, and he'll pop back into place. And I have gotten results with this method, which is why I'm showing this. It's with a group hike dog that she pulls a lot. So I really wanted to like find a way to like make loose leash walking fun for her and fun for me. And this is just one way to do it. There are so many different ways to teach a dog not to pull. And if you're teaching a dog not to pull, there's no reason to have like all these fancy gadgets, right? As long as you're happy with your dog, as long as you're getting results and your dog's happy, I don't care what you do. Ciao. So she'll go, Good girl. So that was done with no leash pressure because I Good. Because I classically conditioned the word to mean get back beside me. Good girl.